Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Good morning, everybody. Ready for a nice walk this morning? I want to take you up on the green hills of Ireland, the 40 shades of green. The deepest mysteries. It's wonderful. I was at a funeral once in New York. It was probably around the year 2000. And the guy who died was only 10 years older than me, and now I'm 10 years older than that. So the word that was going around was he made a lot of people rich. He was a great coach for investments, and he made a lot of people rich. It was an interesting comment to hear, he obviously had helped a lot of people to invest wisely. And he knew how to watch trends. Soter! Soter it's a lost cause for me because Soter! I have to be severe with Soter here now because this won't work. It looked like a cat, and Soter can't stand the existence of cats. You thought she was a nice little dog, right? Soter! She's going to be impossible. Eve Shar. He wrote say leharog ha hatul. Go away. Go away. She doesn't understand that go away. I have to deal with this issue now. This is part of life. The cat needs time to disappear and hide, otherwise there'll be trouble. Go away, Soter. Go away. And it'll be impossible. I mean, she won't follow me. She's going to stay at the cat. There's no question about it. Go away. I don't know how to do this. If I had a stick in my head, it would be better. Go away. That's good. I think we're good. Part of life in the wild here. It's amazing the instincts in nature. And you thought Soter was so nice. Amazing. Amazing. And she is so nice, and very smart, very intuitive. Has a great way for winning affection. So there were two fishermen there. Yuri was telling me yesterday, oh, by the way, I told you something very wrong about what Yuri was doing. He's all the stuff he was doing with food was for baiting fish. I said he had a restaurant. Well, he had a restaurant for fish, and then when he'd catch the fish, he'd let them go. He was here till yesterday evening, and he's up in this part here. He said this isn't a good place for fishing because there's a little more human traffic, and the best place for fishing is further down at the Russian property, but it's closed in this Corona period, and he's hoping that it might be open the next time he comes back. So who knows if we see Yuri again. At the latest in heaven. God willing. So there we've got a glorious sun and quite a lot of green, which at this time of the year is totally feasible here and normal. But during the rest of the year it will be all burned up and very brown and dry. I really want to go up here to Mount Arbel. We won't get that far today because we've started already, but we've started our live stream. But we'll get up there a little bit so you can have the green for Ireland. That's kind of one of the major associations with Ireland, that it's green and flourishing because of all the rain from the Atlantic, and because of St. Patrick. The green really flourished. The green of the faith, the green of the human spirit. And it now needs a refreshing green in Ireland. A new draft of deep entrance into the mystery. In today's Gospel passage of St. John, that's posted with this link, we have Jesus expressing incredibly wonderful insights and understanding into the mystery of the Trinity, of his union with the Father. And this is what Patrick brought to Ireland, the deepest mysteries of reality, the Blessed Trinity, the interior of God, which we don't fully comprehend and understand by a long shot. But I'm going to make a little dash across here because cars can come quickly. But we can be introduced to the mystery of the Trinity. That incredible richness in God, the richness of life. And the greatest minds have wrestled with this mystery and helped to explain it. Also from the time of St. Patrick. Sometimes when I was working in the US in schools, I'd ask the children, when was St. Patrick born? And they were pretty clear that it was before their grandmothers. But of course he was from the 5th century. And he died in 461. These are almost like clovers here. But the shamrock is like a little mini clover. I'm just trying to keep my eye open there for that. And it's a 3-leafed shamrock. St. Patrick used this to teach the mystery of the Trinity, just the fact of it, to help the Irish people to realize that God was a very deep mystery, had an extraordinary richness, and this really transformed Irish culture profoundly, amazingly. He also met a lot of opposition, and there were a number of attempts on his life from which he was spared on various occasions. And I have attached something today for you in the connection. It's really amazing. I wonder if these little flowers, I doubt it. I thought they had like a... Nope, they're not what I'm looking for. He had an extraordinary passion for Christ, and he was steeped in the sacred scriptures, absolutely steeped in the sacred scriptures. You know when you have a sponge in the sink and it's wet and you want to take it out but you don't want to touch a wet sponge? Can you get that sponge out with your hand without getting wet? Impossible. And you cannot read the Confessio of St. Patrick without being immersed in sacred scripture, like every second verse. So the link I give you there is the life story of St. Patrick, and it's probably a half an hour read. It's only 40 pages about, and it's just delightful. And I'm embarrassed to say that I was very late I was already working in Germany as a priest, and somebody gave me a present of it in old German writing, in old German print. That took me a little while to read. And that was the first time I read the Confessions straight through. So many of you have celebrated St. Patrick's a lot, maybe even like my father, you're called Patrick. But maybe you haven't even read, or Patricia, maybe you haven't read the Confessions of St. Patrick. So do yourself a favor today. Skip some TV show and take the half hour to read it. Or even take 5 minutes this morning at coffee, and then another 5 minutes at lunchtime. Or if you're in the United States, you're not gone to bed yet, read a few pages tonight before you go to sleep. Especially if you're on the West Coast, you still have time. It's 10 hours from here, so it's a little after 6 in the morning. So then it's only 8 p.m. or 8. It's not even 8:15 p.m. So read it tonight. Read it tonight. Let's go up here in these very lush growth hills of Mount Arbel at the Galilee. And we'll take a view around the hills of Ireland. You know, Ireland is like a saucer, like the Sea of Galilee in a way. It's surrounded by hills on all sides, basically. So I think I'm going to try to go up through here. There's a path here, but really it's overgrown now. And I can hardly find it anymore, and I'm on it right here. This is actually better than I thought it would be right now. It's basically a cow path. And that brings me back home to the farm. And I have to be careful here because there's a barbed wire fence And there's one line of barbed wire on the ground here. So be careful how you... Look at our friends here still growing. Now I would struggle again to get flowering on here. Oh, I know what's wrong. I forgot to take out the wire. So hope you have a good connection still. Look at these hills, the green hills of Ireland. And then the green of these are the wild hills, and over there you have the more cultivated fields. And the horticulture down below. And then you have the green hills there bordering Lebanon. And we really can't see much more. We can hardly see, hardly make out the hills of the Golan. And we're just above the hills of Jordan that we can't see here. Mount Arbel is blocking us, and the haze is blocking us. So this is just so beautiful, all these flowers. But now I'm in a spot where I wonder I should go here. Okay, I have my other path here. So, you know, people like Patrick are extraordinary witnesses of the transformation of the world and major milestones in the transformation of the world. It's amazing that a small little island, you know, they say Israel is a start-up nation, but Ireland was, in a certain sense, a start-up for the world in evangelization from the 7th century onwards. Just 2 centuries after St. Patrick, there was such incredible intensity in the monastic life in Ireland and in the mystery of Christ, the maturity in the mystery of Christ, that it was like major power lines going out from that generator, carrying the transforming power of the gospel for pagan hearts. And a lot of them actually, a number of them were on their way to the Holy Land. There's one bishop from Ireland buried in Hungary. He died on the way to the Holy Land on pilgrimage, to go to pilgrimage in Győr, just more or less halfway between Vienna and Budapest. I was working in that area for a good 11 years in Central Europe. And the bishop told us that his predecessor was an Irishman. So the Irish went all over the world, of that time all over Europe, renewing the faith. One priest in Italy told me once that half of the saints in Italy were of Irish origin. And people obviously call them by Italian names, so they think they're Irish. But then again, that I can cause trouble now if I say that St. Patrick wasn't Irish. He was Irish by adoption. But he loved the people, and even though he was taken as a slave originally, and that's all in the story, and the story tells very quickly, and he was taken as a prisoner and as a slave, sold as a slave. And actually another story is very interesting that people don't know about. There's a second document, and that's not directly in the link I gave you, but at that link you can find it. And it's called the Letter to Karoticus. And Karoticus was some type of strongman living in Wales, and he had a fleet of marauders to rob and plunder. And he had great cover in the mountains of Wales, and he would rob and plunder everywhere. So they started robbing and plundering the little monasteries that Patrick had set up in Ireland. And there were many young people embraced Christ immediately from his preaching. And so they were being kidnapped by these marauders. And Patrick wrote a scathing letter, which is only about a page and a half. And you need to read that letter as well to get a full picture of Patrick. Patrick himself, after that slavery, had a dream that led him to escape. And he talks about that time of slavery as a time when he came to his senses. He said that he was a reckless kid, reckless with the treasure of faith. And he learned to pray in the wild, taking care of the pigs. And he learned to say he found himself uttering lots of little short prayers to God. Maybe there are a lot of young people today that have gone down the path of drugs or other abuses, and in their hearts there's a great utterance of a lot of prayers. And you know, the first reading today is from Isaiah is so brilliant that he's going to restore the desolate lands. And he's going to bring the rain on the earth, and there'll be wonderful crops. I'm just trying to climb up a little bit here so you have a little bit of the hills of Ireland today from Galilee, from Mount Arbel. And then we have all these thistles waiting to bloom. Can you hear the cocks crowing in the distance? I'm actually at this point looking for a level spot, so I really want to read some lines from today's scriptures. They are so rich, and they're like the firing power, the nuclear energy that moved St. Patrick to fulfill this mission, because in a subsequent dream then he heard the Irish calling him to come to bring them the good news. Young lad, come back and walk among us. And he had that very unique vocation. I have a nice spot here. So he went up on the beginning of his mission in Ireland. He went to Karoticus, a mountain in the west of Ireland, and he spent 40 days praying. So he did his Lent and fasting. And that's how he started the mission in Ireland, asking God's strength to bless his efforts bringing the gospel to the people of Ireland. No wonder his mission was so blessed, so successful, with such incredible fruits. I'm trying to get a place where I can put down the 3 legs, but I think I have another solution. This is why we have tripods, and I can adjust the legs here. And there we go. Bob's your uncle. So now we got it leveled up. And you're here at sunrise at Mount Arbel, overlooking the Sea of Galilee, from where the great news went all over the world and reached the heart of Patrick and came alive again in his soul when he was in captivity. And fired him up. So it's from here that light went out. I will make you light to the nations. This Isaiah passage as well comes to mind. And so these first disciples of Jesus from the Sea of Galilee, brought that light to the whole world. And St. Patrick is one of those big propagators of the light. So listen to these words from Isaiah. Thus says the Lord, in a time of favor I answer you. It's Isaiah 49. On the day of salvation I help you, and I have kept you and given you as a covenant to the people, to restore the land and allot the desolate heritages, saying to prisoners, come out, to those in darkness show yourselves, along the ways they shall find pasture. On every bare height, and there are lots of them in the Middle East, bare mountains, and you can see them between here and Jerusalem, lots of them. On every bare height shall their pastures be. They shall not hunger or thirst, nor shall the scorching wind or the sun strike them. For he who pities them leads them, and guides them beside springs of water. I will cut a road through all my mountains. And make my highways level. See, some shall come from afar, others from the north and the west, and some from the land of Syene. Sing out, O heavens, and rejoice, O earth. Break forth into song, you mountains, for the Lord comforts his people and shows mercy to his afflicted. And Zion said, the Lord has forsaken me, my Lord has forgotten me. Can a mother forget her infant, but be without tenderness for the child of her womb? Even should she forget, I will never forget you. And this blessing reached the Irish people. And so we can pray Psalm 145. The Lord is gracious and merciful, great kindness, compassionate toward all his works. The Lord lifts up all who are falling and raises all who are bowed down. The Lord is near to all who call upon him, to all who call him in truth. I actually missed a line here that's very interesting for today's pilgrimage theme. The church is holy, despite all of us, despite me. The church is still holy because it's God's work. The Lord is just in all his ways and holy in all his works. And the greatest work really of God is the church. It's the humanity redeemed together from all nations. And what a place St. Patrick played in that. And each one of us can play. We have our mission. We're called to that greatness of bringing the light, bringing consolation and calm, healing wounds, restoring friendships, kindling enthusiasm and hope, inspiring faith, giving great example that draws people magnetically to love, to be compassionate, to not judge. So we have 3 spots of light. We have the sun and 2 big spots in the water. So maybe if St. Patrick was here today, he would have used that. But since we were little children, we used to go and gather the shamrocks and wear them to church today as a reminder of that great teaching of the Blessed Trinity. And now our time is gone, so at Mass we'll go in more into this, about the mystery of the Trinity. God called but he also called God his own Father, making himself equal to God. My Father is at work until now, so I am at work. The Son cannot do anything on his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. The incredible mystery of the Trinity that has been such a challenge for theologians, for thinkers. But the saints have loved the Trinity, have loved God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And that's the path to transformation and to life and to eternity. May the Lord bless you and keep you and hold you in the palm of his hand. And may the wind always be at your back. And may the road rise to meet you until we see each other again at the latest in heaven, in the glory